Ever notice how some people can say a lot without actually using a ton of words? Like they've got this secret code to, unlocking another level of fluency.
Yeah, it's like they're speaking with this underlying richness and nuance.
That's the magic of idioms and phrasal verbs.
Absolutely. And, you'll find them sprinkled everywhere once you start to actually recognize these little guys.
And that's what we're doing today, handing you the cipher to crack the code of sounding super fluent in English.
And this code, you'll find it in casual chats and boardrooms, even song lyrics, like they're everywhere.
Okay, so we've got these two things, right? Idioms and phrasal verbs.
Yeah.
For anyone just tuning in, what's the difference?
So think of idioms as these pre-mixed blends, like herbs de Provence or Moroccan tagine. You get a bunch of flavors hitting you all at once.
And the meaning isn't obvious if you're just analyzing each ingredient on its own.
Exactly. It's like kick the bucket. No one's actually kicking a bucket, right?
But we all get it. It means to pass away.
Yep. So it's about grasping that combined meaning, the cultural understanding, more than just the words themselves.
Gotcha. Okay. So then what about phrasal verbs? Where do those fit into the spice rack?
Phrasal verbs. Those are more like when you're getting fancy and adding your own spices.
Okay.
Carefully choosing what complements what.
Okay.
So it's a verb like look paired with a preposition like up or into, creating that whole new meaning, like look up information or look into a situation. They add that nuance, that extra layer.
But just like you wouldn't put star anise in your coffee.
Exactly.
You've got to choose the right idiom or phrasal verb for the situation.
You got it. Imagine showing up to a business meeting in a ball gown. It's clothing technically, but it sends a very different message. Context is key, my friend.
So telling my boss, let's knock this proposal out of the park. Probably not going to land as well as I think it will.
While your enthusiasm is admirable, that might be a tad casual, even perhaps a tad arrogant for that kind of setting.
Whoops.
Something like, let's ensure this proposal exceeds all expectations. That conveys similar sentiment, but just a bit more polished,
Right. So it's like I'm sending a signal showing I understand not just the words themselves, but the whole vibe.
And that you're in tune with those subtle cues of the language and when to use them. That's what's so key. Using these expressions well, it can actually make you a more effective communicator overall, even more so than someone who's just grammatically correct, but, a bit dry.
Yeah, totally. So it's not just about sounding fluent. It's about really connecting, getting that cultural context that's kind of baked into these expressions.
100%.
Okay, so idioms and phrasal verbs, they're like linguistic spices, right? Got to use them with care.
Yeah.
But let's ditch the boardroom for a bit, yeah? Where do these things really shine?
Oh, absolutely. Casual conversations, you're not just speaking the language, then you're in on it.
Totally. It's fluency with a wink. You're in on the joke.
100%. And idioms especially, they're full of those winks and nods. You know what I mean?
So hit me with it. What are some of your, favorite examples? The ones that make a casual conversation really pop.
Okay. How about this? Spill the beans. It's so simple, but it just works.
Right. Imagine you're catching up with a friend.
Exactly. And you're like, all right, enough about my boring week. Spill the beans. What did you get up to?
Yes. It just injects that fun, kind of gossipy energy.
Right. And it's just so natural.
Or how about when you're trying to give someone a little push to do something? It's just bite the bullet.
Oh, yeah. Bite the bullet and do it.
It's you're right there with them, but, with a little humor.
And it gets the point across, or even something as common as figure something out. It's so everyday, but it perfectly captures that, problem-solving process.
It's funny because when you actually start to, pay attention, we use these expressions all the time.
All the time. We don't even realize it.
It's this whole hidden layer of language we suddenly have access to.
It is. And it's something that trips a lot of non-native speakers up because you can't just translate them word for word,
You have to get that deeper meaning.
The cultural context.
Which honestly makes using them correctly even more impressive, I think.
Oh, for sure. It shows a real command of the language when you can do that.
I'm not just learning the rules, I'm picking up on all those unspoken things too.
Exactly. You're playing with the nuances, making the language your own.
Okay, so I'm ready to play. Hit me with your toughest idiom or phrasal verb challenge.
All right. I've got one for you. Let's say you're in a job interview, yeah? And the interviewer wants to know about a time you faced a challenge. Do you tell him, I just rolled up my sleeves and got down to business? Or is there maybe a better way to phrase that?
Rolled up my sleeves.
Yeah.
It is about taking action, but it feels a little too casual for a job interview. I think I'd say something more like, I took the initiative, or I proactively sought solutions, something a little more buttoned up.
There you go. You see, even in formal settings, idioms and phrasal verbs, they aren't totally off limits.
They're not.
No. But you gotta be picky. Choose the ones that are more about clarity, professionalism, like your examples just now. They get the point across, but without sacrificing that polish.
So it's about picking the right tool for the job, basically.
Yeah, exactly. You wouldn't use a sledgehammer to hang a picture.
Right. Okay, so another scenario. What about if I'm like writing a business email and we need to come up with a plan B? How would I say that without sounding, I don't know, unprofessional?
Okay, yeah, that come up with.
Yep.
Probably want to swap that out with something a bit more formal.
Develop, maybe.
Yes, or formulate.
So instead of we need to come up with a plan B, it's we need to develop a plan B.
Much better. You've successfully navigated from those casual hangouts to the boardroom. You've leveled up your language game.
I love it. You know what I think is so cool about all of this? It's not just about like memorizing a bunch of phrases. It's about understanding how language reflects culture, how it changes and adapts.
It's true. And that's what makes mastering these things so rewarding. It's like you're unlocking this deeper level of fluency.
For sure. So everyone listening, keep playing around with these expressions, keep exploring. You might be surprised by how much fun you have and how much more confident you become. And that's a wrap on today's deep dive into the fascinating world of idioms and phrasal verbs. Until next time, happy language learning.